Good morning, everyone. This is one of the events that I made sure I attended when I was a student just because of how relevant it was at my time. And I'm super excited to be joined today by a wonderful panelists that I think are going to give some great advice on recruiting, especially as an international student. So before we get started, I would ask all students present here to take the pre-survey and you can scan the QR code or use the link in the chat. If you haven't already, it's going to take 5 minutes. And I would ask everyone to stay muted, and you can also turn your cameras off if you're not one of the presenters. We will have a Q&A section in the end, and that's when we encourage you to turn your cameras on and engage with us. In the meantime, please feel free to put in all your comments or questions in the chat, and this meeting will be recorded and shared to you. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I am Revti Garg, and I'm an international student from India. I recently graduated from UW-Madison in May of this year. So go Badgers. And I double majored in marketing and supply chain management. I'm currently working at Toyota Material Handling as a digital quality assurance analyst. So I work on their IoT platform and website to improve user experience. But I'm so excited to be back. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for organizing this, and Kwan for inviting me to take part in it. I'd like to introduce the panelists here. So we have Harper. Harper is a senior at Wisconsin School of Business, double majoring in finance and economics. She was born and raised in China for 18 years before she moved to Madison for undergrad. In the past summer, she had a chance to work as a corporate finance intern for Nelson, a data science and marketing research firm. During the school year, Harper was heavily involved with her peers and finance professionals. Currently, she's serving as a career peer advisor at our career engagement studio to guide business students in their career journey. This semester, she started her role as the VP of Member Development at Women in Business, where she's involved in overseeing the professional development and community involvement events for over 100 active members. In her non-existent free time, she enjoys weekend brunches with her friends, vintage thrifting, and making last-minute travel plans. Next, we have Dylan. Dylan is our international student advisor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She advises international students in the School of Business, as well as general studies majors. She graduated from UW-Madison in 2017 with a master's degree in global higher education and is passionate about all areas of internationalization on college campuses. Next, we have Kwan. I like to call her Coach Kwan, and she's been a great mentor to me throughout my job search process. Kwan Sego is an experienced human capital consultant and a career coach for international students and immigrants in the US. She has over 15 years of professional experience at global companies like Deloitte, Accenture, BMW, and has helped Fortune 500 companies develop their talent strategies worldwide. Today, Kwan is the founder of I See a Way. Her mission is to empower international students for employability and serve international educators as trusted advisors. Kwan grew up in Thailand and is now living in Chicago. I would like to pass it on to Kwan to share her advice on how to navigate recruitment as an international student.
Thank you so much, Revati. You are just so amazing. Thank you for this kind introduction. And it's just amazing that last year, same time, you were an undergrad student, right? But
Yeah.
now you are attending this session as a US professional, working for a company that so many people want to be a part of. So kudos to your amazing achievement, and I am so proud of you. I'm sure that all our panelists today, we are so proud of you. And
Thank
welcome
you.
everyone. Yes, it's just so amazing. And thank you for accepting my invitation to be part of this panelist. And yeah, so good to see you all from Chicago. I will just use about 15 to 20 minutes today to share a little bit about the roadmap that has helped someone like Revati and so many international students in the US achieve their career goals. But before I share this roadmap, I would like to get to know more about you. Can you please share with me? Let me share the screen, and we have let me share the screen right here. You can see my screen, okay? Okay, we have a poll for you. We would love to learn a little bit more about you. Can you please share with us what is your status right now? When are you graduating? Are you graduating this semester or you are graduating this spring? Or you have more than 1 year to graduation? That's great news, right? And if you are currently on your OPT, whether it's pre, graduation OPT or post, let me know. Or other. Okay, it looks like majority of our friends similar to your situation, Revati, last year, right? You attended this fall webinar and you were about to graduate May in the following year. That's amazing. 100%. Let me go back. 100% of our friends about to graduate next year in spring. That is great. So you have, let's say, you know, um, let's remove all the holiday season, right? Let's say you have about 5 to 6 months to secure an employment before graduation. Okay, so let me share a little bit with you what kind of challenges you can expect to experience. But I'm going to share this with you not to make you feel discouraged. Okay, just want you to set a realistic expectation. Okay, so these are the situation that many of the new graduates normally experience, whether you are an international student or domestic student. You may experience these three obstacles. Number one, normally new graduates, you may have little to no work experience, but most jobs, even at entry level, ask for work experience, right? That is the first challenge. And the second one is you may have heard so much about you have to go on network, but as an international student, sometimes it's like cultural barriers, language barriers, and you have no connections at all outside your campus. Where are you going to start? You have no idea how to do that. And the third one is you keep applying online because it is the only way of applying for job that you know how to do, but you hardly get any interviews from that online job application. And that is the situation that many new graduates normally stumble through. And for international students, your challenges will double. If you wait for the job to be open, apply online and wait for an interview opportunity. Because when you get that first screening call from the recruiter, they will ask this question, the popular question that we all not a big fan of. Are you authorized to work in the US? But you have to say yes to that question, okay? Because you have CPT and OPT, be proud of that. You are authorized to work. But then they will ask the next question. Do you need work sponsorship in the future? And if you want to be straightforward, then you may have to say yes. And once they know that, they may say, we don't have the policy to sponsor international students. So this is a situation that many talented international students normally stumble through and lost your chances to present your skills in front of the hiring managers. Now, in this presentation, I would like to share a few points to help you find jobs as a new graduate and also overcome job search barriers that normally international students normally experience. Okay, so if you follow these steps, you will have higher chances to land a red carpet job interview without going through so much of traditional job application process, just like Revati. She will share with you later on her own experience of landing a job without applying online. And to achieve that, there are 7 steps to follow. I want to be able to cover all of them in details today, but I want to focus these 2 important factors. First factor is to have an effective networking strategy. Step 1, build meaningful connections. Step 2, make people like you. And step 3, create a networking game plan. And once you build meaningful connections with you as professionals, next step is to define and communicate your career brand. Step 4, 5, and 6 is to develop your career brand. Define your goal, create compelling stories, and know your employer's needs. So let's start with networking. If you want to have more chances of getting job interviews, you can't rely on job application 100% anymore, because on average, only 2% of job applicants get calls for an interview. And if you dream to join, let's say, big tech firms like Google, Amazon, let's say Google, there is less than 1%. You only have 0.2% chance of getting hired at Google. Like, let's say in 2019, Google received 3.3 million job applications online. So it's quite hard to get results when you apply online. So why you gonna spend on that 2% chance, right? When there is 80% out there of jobs that are in the hidden job market. The hidden job markets is a term that we use to describe jobs that have not been advertised or promoted or posted online. Okay, these employers shared the opportunity within their network first and keep getting candidates through employee referrals. And many of those jobs that have already published online, this is the fact, might have already been filled internally or via referral. So that is why sometimes you don't even get any responses from online application, even when your resume is so good. So there are lots of channels of networking, but remember, my first step is to build meaningful connection. That is the mindset that is so important, because as an international student, you need to have a strong career advocate who believe in your capabilities. You need a group of professional network that know about you, trust in you, and know that even when you need work authorization in the future, you are going to be a good investment for the company. And next is to make people like you and create a networking game plan. So I want to invite Revati to join me in this conversation, because Revati has secured her job offer through her network, because she knows how to maintain a connection with professionals. Revati, can you please share a little bit of your experience getting a job at Toyota
Yep.
material handling?
Yes, of course. And I know networking is so much more important for us international students when we move to the US, because we're basically starting from scratch. We don't have that network that maybe domestic students do. So making those connections, meeting people, that becomes so much more important for us. And so for me, my junior year, I was supposed to be interning at Toyota Material Handling, and that got canceled last minute because of COVID happened. And I was very frustrated, and I'm not really frustrated, but anxious about what the future would look like, just because we think junior year internships means so much. But I made it a point to still be in touch with my manager. Supposed to be manager at that time, and I know during winter break, I was getting very anxious. So I sent him an email to ask for an informational interview, just to catch up with, how the company is doing, and prepared some questions to ask him before, just to get to know him. And then, imagine him not seeing how I work or what my work ethics like. Just based on that other conversation, he gave me two referrals to his posting within the company. And that's how I landed a job at Toyota. But something that's very important here is to be able to make those meaningful connections, like Kwan mentioned, because it's one thing to talk professionally, but it's also important to get to know the person you're talking to on a personal level too, so that you're able to make a more deeper connection that way. And it's not just, it is very much work related, but to get to know the person on a personal level. And that's something that I have been doing still. Now that I have a job too, I'm still meeting my coworkers, and not only having a professional connection, but making that personal too, so that that network that I'm creating is actually valuable to me.
That is so amazing. Thank you for sharing your experience. And I can ask the question on behalf of so many international students, because when we talk about getting to know someone in a personal level, what is that? What does that mean? And for, normally Asian culture is very formal. And And for professionals, if you get on a first call, it's got to all the questions that you ask them normally is going to be professional level questions. So Revati, can you just share one question to ask someone that you just met in a professional level and in the personal level to get to know them?
Mhm. Yeah, I would usually ask, where are they from and is that somewhere that they've always grown up? And so most of the time that's
Awesome.
something that they know a lot about and would talk about and tell you, where they're living. So that's how you get to know, or you could ask them about what they like to do, but just make it not very personal, but personal enough that they'd be willing to share that point with you. And then you can always go on top of what they said and add your experience. If you visited that place, you can talk about your
Mhm.
experience. So that just creates like another level of connection between the two.
So great, right? Especially in this virtual world, you normally get on a call with people like across the state, and you can ask the question like, if you are speaking with someone in San Francisco, were you born and raised here? And they will share their stories because America is people in America, they're moving around so much and they have lots of stories to tell.
Mm.
And one thing about American people, they love to share their story, and that is I will call that cracking a code. When you get to know if their favorite food, their pets names, if they have kids or not, then you get into the next step of that meaningful connection. Yeah, so thank you so much for everybody. That is really amazing. Okay, so let's continue. What's going to be the next step that will help you get closer to your target job? Okay, so let's say if, for example, majority of our friends today do not have connection inside a company like Revati has, but you just kickstart. Besides using alumni network, which is so amazing, I truly recommend you to do that, right? LinkedIn as well. You can also meet with the professionals that you want to be like in the future by joining professional network, professional affiliations. Here's a channel that I will recommend you to start reaching out to. Okay, let's start with the left table here, the blue one. The blue one is the organization that support your ethnicity. Let's say if you are originally from Asia, ASEAN is the largest nonprofit organization for Asian network. You will meet with partners from Deloitte, PwC, so many great companies. And let's say if you're from South America or Europe, okay, there are so many professionals affiliation out there as well. Let's say Alpha, Prospanica are for students and professionals who are from the Hispanic culture. So reach out to those organizations and you will find great people that want to mentor you because they want to help someone that have a similar background that they have. The next professional network that I want you to reach out to is the orange part here. Okay, the orange part is the organization that support your specific interest. Let's say if you want to become a project management professionals, this is such a popular career for so many students. Join an organization like Women in Product, and there are so many out there. You can just Google professional affiliations for product management and look into those organizations that you can get a chance to meet with someone that could be your potential mentors. Okay, and reach out to them and build meaningful connections. So after this session, this is your homework that I would like you to try. Okay, I would like you to check out one of these organizations, professional affiliations, and try to attend their free events. You don't have to become a member right away. Attend their free events, see if it worked out well for you. You get a chance to build meaningful connections and keep me posted. Send me a message through LinkedIn. Let me know how it goes. All right, so and here we are at the last three steps to help you build a career brand. First, define your career goal and then create your compelling stories and know your employer's needs. Why do you need to have a career goal? From a survey, 1,500 recruiters said that irrelevant applications was their biggest turns off, and almost half of this population said that they would blacklist those candidates by suppressing their names from even coming up in the future resume sources, right? So recruiters at big companies like Amazon, for example, have no time to deal with candidates with irrelevant applications that apply for jobs like a numbers game. So please avoid treating your job application like a numbers game because it is like you're shooting your resume in the dark. Let's make your job application process more focused and strategic. There are so many strategic steps to build your career brand. And today I would like to talk about a few misperceptions that international students normally have when building your resume or looking for jobs. First, do you believe that only work experience in the US matters? That is not true. The right skill sets matter more. You should always highlight work experience that is related to your target job. Whether it's from your home country, outside the US, it doesn't matter. Employers care more about your skills and experience. The second one is for those of you who do not have real work experience at all, but only school projects, do you feel that you don't have compelling stories at all? For employers, okay, even your school project that you can create compelling story upon that, they will value it. Okay, like let's say one of my students, she had zero internship experience, and we highlighted her school projects in the resume. Within 60 days, she's got a job offer from a global company. Even the school project talk about the team that you collaborate with, talk about your key achievement, talk about the software that you use for that project. That will draw employers' attention as well. The last myth is about GPA. You may feel that you have 4.0 and you may not have to worry about job searching. 4.0 GPA is excellent, and I truly admire your achievements so much. However, when it comes to career development, employers want to know more about you than your GPA. Okay, so prepare to talk about your projects, the problems that you solved, the team that you collaborated with, and highlight relevant skills instead of just a GPA. You need to be able to narrate your story. Okay. Therefore, let me go back a little bit. Therefore, please make sure that you know your target job before even starting building your brand, and then build your compelling stories upon that, whether it was from your home country or school project, it doesn't matter. Try to look for the skills and experience that is related to your target job and use them to create your brand. And once you have your brand ready on your resume, don't stop right there beyond your resume. On LinkedIn as well, e-portfolio, email signature, and after the pandemic, business card. Revati, one of the things that I'm so proud of you is your e-portfolio. Can you please share a little bit how that e-portfolio has helped you during the job interviews?
Yes. So for my e-portfolio, I just made a Wix website, just a very basic website, and I put it on my LinkedIn and my resume. And I was expecting actually not that many people to care about it or even click on it. But I know that in my interviews, I had an interview. The first interview was with the VP of my team. And the first thing he complimented me about was my website. And I was very shocked that even people look at the website, and that was something that he said helped me stand out from the others because it added more of a color to my entire portfolio than someone that you just see a black and white resume for. So to be able to elaborate on some points or to be able to show evidence, for example, for me it's marketing and social media. So I had like screenshots of stuff on my website that they could see for actual evidence when I'm talking than just my words for it. So that's something that really helped me. And I think just having a portfolio, just something where you can showcase what you've done, and it doesn't have to be all work related. If you're very interested in painting, you can have like a section of that stuff, so that just adds more to your personality when you're interviewing. So that was really
So
good.
great. So great. So don't miss that chance to create a beyond a resume, right? Thank you for sharing, everybody. And we will have the Q&A session at the end. But before that, let me wrap this up. Okay. For job interviews, one thing that I want to make sure that you don't do is to ask this question: will you sponsor my H1B? I just had a session yesterday and a student asked me as well, when should I tell employers that I am an international student? If they don't ask you, you don't have to say anything. Focus on selling yourself, selling your skills during job interviews. Don't try to sell your visa status. That is the last thing that you can discuss with them when you get the offer. And normally through the logistic of job application, that visa status will come up by itself because you have to show them your EAD card. All right. So don't just initiate a conversation about sponsorship if they haven't asked you. Sell your skills. And remember, always do lots of research because I have talked to so many hiring managers this year and all of them said the same thing. The student that stand out during the job interview is the one that did so much of the research. They know about the company very well, talk about things that's super tangible. They know about the leadership team, about the company's latest announcements, the recent news, and they understand the role and expectation very well. So that will help you stand out in the job interview. Do lots of research. Okay, so what should you take away from this presentation? First, when you network, don't think about you connect with people because you want to get something from them like job referrals. Network with them to build a meaningful connection, not job opportunity. And next is when you define your career goal, try to look for a target job that is hard to fill by domestic candidate. And once you know that career goal, build your professional brand beyond your resume, just like Revati did. And then during the interview, show that you are a problem solver, not a visa sponsorship seeker. Once you pass the interview, become a top performer, this sponsorship will happen on its own. Okay. During the process, engage the right people to help advocate you. So this is my key takeaway from you, and I would like to connect with you all after this session. So please feel free to reach out to me on my LinkedIn or my email. And at the end, stay tuned until the end because we're gonna have a gift for 4 students who complete the post survey. Is the assessment and game plan with me. So Revati, back to you.
Thank you so much, Kwan. And I love the point that you said be a problem solver and not a visa sponsorship seeker, because a lot of the times we, stop believing ourselves because we're international students and think of it as like they're going to just think of it as like a sponsorship. But there's so much more value that we can bring as international students. So thank you, Kwan. And now I would like to move it on to Dylan to give a little bit advice on visa options and our responsibilities. I'll share my screen too.
All right. Thank you so much for those wonderful tips, Kwan. I'm so grateful that Caitlin invited me to present here today because ISS really does play an important role in your employment authorization as students at UW-Madison. And I know obtaining OPT or CPT and all these terms can be super intimidating. So I'm glad that I get to be here today and present on the different ways that ISS can support you in this process, and also just give you a little brief overview of CPT and OPT. This is talking about F1 students particularly because this is the majority of our student population on campus, but please know that our J1 visa students can meet with ISS advisors anytime to talk about employment authorizations individually. And so with that, I'll just start with an overview of what the ISS services are. First, we have virtual drop-in advising, and this is something we've started in this virtual environment due to COVID, but we're finding it works really well. We offer virtual drop-in advising 5 days a week for 2 hours, and this is just on a Zoom platform where all the ISS advisors are there, and you can join and meet with an advisor and ask any of those more complicated immigration type questions that you have relating to any subject matter. It doesn't have to be the employment authorization specifically. Of course, that's what we're going to focus on today. There's also information requests. So if you've tried sending an ISS advisor an email before, you might have been a little bit frustrated by our automatic response telling you that we will not respond to you via email. This is not because we don't want to help you or don't want to support you, but information requests through Teradata is the best way that advisors can keep track of all of our communication with you. Because there's so many students, we want to make sure that if I'm out sick one day or something, another advisor can hop right in and give you that support and have access to your communication and respond to you. We do receive a high volume of information requests daily. And so typically we first respond within 3 to 5 business days. Please know that we will respond, however, and sending that additional email follow-up and things like that actually kind of slows the process down and doesn't speed it up. So if you can wait for a response, we encourage that. Otherwise, please utilize that virtual drop-in advising to get that instant communication with an advisor. And then finally, any requests that go on your I-20s, whether it's program extensions, employment authorizations, whatever it may be, we want you to utilize Teradata and apply for that through Teradata. Great, and thank you for switching to the next slide. So the first thing we're going to talk about is CPT, and knowing that a lot of you are approaching graduation, you might have already experienced CPT and already have these authorizations. But I'm still going to go into detail about what it is because CPT typically comes before OPT. And so CPT is temporary employment authorization for F1 students while you are still students in the US. This authorization goes on your I-20. It allows for that off-campus work type training, that practical training, and comes in the forms of internships, co-ops, employment opportunities, practicums. These experiences are paid or unpaid and also can be part-time or full-time. It's really important though that this is practical training experience, and so your CPT must be directly related to your major listed on your I-20. All right, and next slide, please. Okay, so who is eligible? And this is really important to pay attention to because you want to make sure that when you are pursuing employment authorizations, you are eligible for them. So any degree seeking F1 student meeting these following requirements are eligible to apply for CPT. So first, you must be enrolled for one full-time academic year. This could look like a fall semester and then a spring semester, or it could even be a spring semester and then a fall semester, but it does need to be 2 consecutive semesters, 1 full year of having that active F1 status. Again, you must be maintaining that status. An example of somebody not maintaining status might be, say you're enrolled for 12 credits as an undergrad student at UW-Madison, that's full-time enrollment. But halfway through your program, you talk to an advisor, a dean or somewhere and decide to drop down to 9 credits. Even if this happened years before applying for CPT, once you apply, that 1 semester of not having full-time enrollment would stop your ability to be eligible for CPT. So really important to maintain that status as an F1 student. Something about CPT is that you must already have an offer for practical training opportunity directly related to your major. So you must have that offer in hand before you're able to apply. You must also be enrolled in the appropriate CPT course, which we'll talk about a little bit later and what that means. And you'll work with your department and see whether that's an elective course or whether or not that is a required course to earn your degree. I did want to note that our ESL students and our non-degree students in programs such as VISP, our exchange programs, or certificate programs are not eligible for CPT, so you must be degree seeking. All right, so who's involved in the CPT process? There's 4 main constituents here. First, you as the student, you're the one seeking that authorization, the employment opportunity, following the regulations and making sure you know all the policies to ensure that you can have this experience. Then your employer actually issues you that signed employment offer letter that comes on letterhead. And there's some important details that I'll share with you later on as well that needs to be included in this offer letter. Then you have your academic career coach or your faculty advisor, whoever it may be that you're working with in your department, who's going to evaluate that experience to provide that evidence that it does relate to your major and confirm that you're enrolled in the appropriate CPT course, which they'll help you determine what course that may be if you aren't already aware. And then finally, ISS evaluates all that information in your application in Teradata. We look at the F1 regulations, the institutional policy, your eligibility, and ultimately give you that recommendation and authorization on your I-20. All right, so some of this is a little bit repetitive here, but I wanted you to have a clear outline of how this application process works. So first, you're securing that offer, again, directly related to your major, getting that offer letter from your employer, making sure it has all the necessary information, the dates you're starting. Is it part-time? Is it full-time? What's the physical location? Will you be working remote? We have a wonderful resource for you on our website that shares exactly what needs to be in that offer letter, and I'll share a link for that at the end. Then you're going to want to enroll in that course. Again, working with your advisor, figuring out what course that is. Then you'll complete the electronic verification request in the CPT application in Teradata. And then ISS will review that application and complete the process to give you that authorization for CPT. Okay, so switching gears to OPT, and this might be on the horizon for some of you, which is really exciting. OPT allows students to work off campus in a job directly related to your major after your degree program. Typically, there's also options for pre-completion OPT, but seen as the majority of students are pursuing this after graduation, I'm going to focus on post-completion OPT. So OPT is generally available for students for 12 months per degree level. It might differ if you're in the STEM field, then you'll be eligible for a STEM extension. But 12 months is the typical case. Again, this is for degree level and it's for your highest degree level. So say you complete your bachelor's and then you go straight into a graduate program and complete your master's. Because you didn't take the OPT right after your bachelor's degree, you don't get to go back and do a bachelor's OPT. Instead, you get the 12 months for the master's degree. And so you'll want to make sure that if you're trying to get as much work authorization and work experience as possible, that you're taking that pause in between degrees and doing your bachelor's degree, graduating, doing your 12 months of OPT, and then transitioning into your master's. However, that's completely up to you and whatever you decide is best for your academic and professional experience. OPT also can be part-time or full-time. You can have multiple experiences at once and multiple employment authorizations. You just need to be sure that you're reporting those to ISS and USCIS. And then these opportunities as well can include anything from internships, volunteer opportunities, contracted specialists, which is like our freelance opportunities, perhaps. You can work with a staffing agency or temp agency to help secure that employment authorization or employment opportunity. And you can also be a business owner on OPT. However, if you're choosing to start your own business on an OPT, ISS recommends that you do work with an immigration attorney, as that is outside the jurisdiction of what we would advise on. And there's a lot of rules and regulations that come with being a business owner as an international student on F1 visa. All right, so who is eligible for OPT? A lot of these are similar to CPT, but I'm still going to run through them. Again, maintaining your F1 status, being enrolled full-time for 1 academic year. You must be physically present in the US in order to apply, and we do recommend that you remain present while your OPT application is pending. You must be intending to pursue a practical training or employment opportunity. However, unlike CPT, you are not required to have a job offer in order to apply for OPT. So don't wait to get that application submitted until you have that job offer, because those pending times for the application are much, much longer than CPT. Something important to note, if you are working on CPT and you do more than 365 days of full-time employment, you are going to lose out on your eligibility for OPT. So you want to make sure that you don't go over that 12 months of full-time employment on CPT if you have plans for pursuing OPT. And again, I just included at the bottom there that the job offer is not required for OPT. We've had students miss out on really wonderful opportunities because they've waited to apply for OPT, and then the employer was like, I want you to start in 2 months, but their application was pending for 5 months. And so it's really important to start applying for OPT at the earliest you are able to. All right, so who's involved in the OPT application process? The student. You are going to complete an ISS OPT workshop. This is 6 modules that takes place right in the OPT application form in Teradata. You're going to submit your OPT application form in Teradata, which gets the recommendation on your I-20. And then you're going to gather and collect all the application materials that get sent to USCIS to either mail in or submit via the new online OPT portal. ISS plays a very important role in recommending you for OPT. So again, we're going to look at your application, make sure it's directly related to, or make sure that you've maintained enrollment, make sure that your major is declared, look at everything, make sure it's in order, and then give you that authorization on your I-20. And then you as a student will take that I-20 with the OPT recommendation along with all the other application materials and send that or submit online to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, otherwise known as USCIS. USCIS will be the ones then to give you that OPT approval. And again, this typically takes anywhere between 2 to 5 months. We've seen rare cases where it's taken shorter. More often, we've seen cases that might take longer. So again, really important to be planning ahead for your OPT authorization. All right, and again, just a brief overview of the order of how this is going to work. First, you're completing those OPT workshops, which you'll learn the ins and outs of OPT because there's so much information. Then you're submitting that application through Teradata. While that application is pending or waiting for an ISS advisor to process it, you'll fill out the I-765 form, prepare the rest of the materials. Then once we process your request on the I-20, submit it all and secure that employment and begin once your OPT is approved and you see that EAD card with your OPT start date.
All right.
And I think just one more slide here is just some CPT and OPT resources. Again, this was just a very brief overview and a lot of information even in the brief overview. So there's so many details. So please go to our website. We have a ton of great information there. So I have links there for a CPT overview. I directly linked that employment offer letter template for CPT. I encourage you to give that to your employer so they know exactly how to fill out that offer letter for you. And then also links to our websites on OPT.
Thank you, Dylan. I think it's very important to keep in mind the OPT timeline because the last few months when you're applying for jobs and you're still worried about your OPT and EAD card coming, it's very important to know the timeline and educate yourself. And I think ISS has a great module that walks you through the entire process, and that was very helpful. So I recommend everyone should do it. Next, I would like to introduce Harper. She's going to give some of her job search strategies that she did and some of her advice.
Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Harper. As we went through the quick introduction already, I just want to mention that I'm a career peer advisor at Wisconsin Career Engagement Studio. So if you guys have any questions about like job searching process, resume review, I would be able to help. Happy to connect after this session. And with that, I'll pass it to my strategy / talk more about my experience last year recruiting for summer intern. Next slide, please. So I listed out 3 majority of advice I have in mind. The first one is like small steps daily rather than a big jump occasionally, like hoping for a miracle to happen all of a sudden. I feel like everyone sometimes it's a kind of pressure to secure something during career fair, but there's a lot of preparation coming before you're actually submitting the application. Starting from underclassmen, you can do a lot of career exploratory programs, diversity summits, and also amazing corporate visit programs. Those are so much fun. I did a couple ones going to Chicago, going to Milwaukee. Was supposed to go to New York City, but COVID, it turns into virtual, but still it was a great, very educational experience. You got the chance to spend some time with your peers, connect with people working in the industry. Meanwhile, you're in the city, like sort of exploring, is New York City for you? Do you like it or not? So I think those are like very easy stuff you can start as a freshman, sophomore. It doesn't really require a very technical backgrounds to participate in there. So I would highly suggest starting from that. Other than that, I would also suggest like think about it. If you can balance your schoolwork, if there's any chance for you to start any side hustles like campus jobs, sometimes student center they post jobs related to accounting, related to finance. For international students, it's easy to start a campus job than a corporate job. So starting from there is a good start. Other than that, for my club and stuff, there's a lot of case competition. Even though it's not quite working on real life cases, I still think we have it's a great way to practice some of the technical skills and stuff. The third one is that I would highly suggest that every day, every week, if you meet someone who has interesting background, someone who has similar experience, coming from similar background as you, don't hesitate to reach out to them, set up a coffee chat, learn about their experience, stay humble, and then learn proactively, learning step by step and research their backgrounds to learn more about the company and speaker you're talking to. Second one is that I really want to talk about like when you're doing job searching, I think quality definitely matters more than quantity. So take myself as an example. I came to career fair last semester. I know there's gonna be around 70 employers, but it doesn't like not every single one company apply to my major of interest, and also the job observation like filter just doesn't match. So I sort of did a filter by myself, and among the 70 employers only 4 of them they are actually taking international student. So I'm sort of like bugging every single one of them, like setting up calls with their analysts and stuff. I just follow up with every single one of them, and that's how I secured my summer internship. One of the company, they are really impressed by me. And it's the first time hiring in Wisconsin. They are very impressed, like how much like the level of knowledge I know about the firms about through coffee chat. So I do think like quality definitely over quantity. It's a strategy to really reserve your energy to whatever that matters the most. Other than that, I would also suggest that before you are actually applying and handing over your resume, I would suggest you to set around 3 to 5 coffee chats to learn about different division, people's role, and also see if you are a culture fit more than visa status. Because I think long term, if you're working there, you need to find people that you genuinely enjoy working with. And also take a look at the job description, tailor a little bit your resume, fix a couple words to make it sound like a better fit for the role. Other than that, since you're applying for a lot of jobs and stuff, and talking to a lot of people, I would suggest that no matter writing it down or start a spreadsheets, just like keeping track of stuff you have been doing, like who did you talk to, when did you hand in the application, stuff like that. And other than that, I think just in general, have a good attitude when you're talking to people. Frustrating things like rejection or ghosting, sometimes it happens, but overall, I think having a good time attitude throughout the journey, it would get you in somewhere far in the long run. With that, I would pass it to Rivai to hear more about her advice for full-time recruiting.
Thank you, Harper. I think that was great. And the point of, quality over quantity, because that's when, the meaningful connection comes into play and you can build on those instead of like mass sending the same email to hundreds of people. So thank you for sharing that. I would also like to mention how important it is when you're searching for jobs to think of industry instead of like just cool companies and applying to every single company. Because I know that my first semester, I was so overwhelmed. I was just randomly, submitting my application every single place. And that's when I understood the importance of narrowing down a little so that it's not as overwhelming, and picking an industry, be it the tech industry or advertising agency, like picking a niche and then crafting your resume in a way that makes sense to the industry that you're applying to. Because when they look at the resume, they see you as a candidate that has that information. And then with the networking that you do within that group of people, you can build on that and talk about certain current events. And, in the interview, in the last section, when it's more conversational, when you're asking questions, that's when you can bring that industry knowledge that you have because of all of the interviews that you've done, all of the information video in interviews that you've done. That section, that's where you can shine. And that's what will sort of differentiate you as well, knowing that what the industry that you're entering into, even though you might not have all the technical skills down, but at least you're showing that initiative is what something I've seen employers appreciate a lot. And then again, as Harper mentioned, I think it's so important to keep a positive mindset, just because I know there's going to be tons of rejections that you'll get, but it only takes that one offer letter, that one acceptance to make it all worth it, all of the effort that you've done, all the entire 4 years. So just be persistent and be having a positive mindset throughout the entire process, because I'm sure every one of us has a unique thing that we can bring to a company. So thank you everyone for all of your contribution. And 1 second, sorry. Yep, and for interest of time, I know we're going a little over time, but jumping into the questions, question that popped up was that how do you identify whether it's a fraud when you've been reaching out by job hunters? So Kwan, if you can answer that question.
Yes, really good question, right? Revati, when you started building career brand and posting resume on job sites, there are lots of people reaching out. So let me give you a little bit tips, okay? This is the tips that I did it myself as well when I looked for a job, and I also advise my student to do, is to build a separate email address and phone number for job application process, because it's going to be in the public and lots of people are going to reach out to you. And a quick tip on how to screen whether this is a fraud or something that you should get back to. Once the recruiter reach out to you, they should have provided the clear job description, the clear description of the company. And you also can do lots of research. Okay, there are like lots of channels out there to find a fraud company. You can even use Google to look for that company if it's legitimate. And you can also use some keyword like fraud, unlisted company, those type of thing as well. So first of all, don't worry about getting back to all the recruiters that reach out to you. Filter by the information that they provide to you. Job description, the company description, and do a little bit of research. And never provide your social security number. Okay, tell them you don't feel comfortable providing that personal data as of now until you get a job offer. That is my recommendation. Would love to hear your experience as well. Harper and Revati and Dylan and Caitlin, if you have.
For me personally, I also got a lot of those, spam calls randomly. And one thing, a theme that I noticed in those calls was that they would try to enroll me for a course, and that's something that I would have to pay for. And then after that, it's a guaranteed job and a guaranteed sponsorship. And whenever someone says that to you, take it, just take it with a pinch of salt, because that could potentially be fraud. And I've got a lot of calls like that I've just like now know that those are fraud calls.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have heard about those kind of consultancy, right? That try to pull lots of candidates, and sometimes you have to pay for the training or they take out your salary. So those are
Yeah.
the people that you should block. And when you see those things, you can go to those sites that you got contact by those people and just block them, report to the site as well.
I'm just going to hop in as well. Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin Quillen. I'm one of the career coaches with the Wisconsin School of Business. Behind the scenes here today, one thing that you can also kind of use to weed out some of those scams is Handshake is a portal that we use for our UW-Madison students. And as international students, especially, you can go on there and you can select, I only want employers that sponsor CPT or that offer OPT. Sometimes it's not always accurate because a company might select that they don't, when in reality they do. But the good news is for identifying scammers, those are all employers that we as career coaches have already vetted and said, this is not a scam. This is a legitimate employer that wants to hire Badgers. So that's a good place to start, especially if you're looking for jobs within the Midwest.
All right, thank you so much. That is some great advice. I know Handshake is very useful. Another question that we had was, does networking and researching end after you land the job? Do these best practices apply to the job search process outside of the US as well, that is back in your home countries? So if anyone wants to answer that first.
Maybe I think I would love, like for me personally, I would love to hear from Harper's experience too.
I definitely, let me just try to rephrase the question. So is it necessary to keep networking like after you get the job, or so I personally do think that matters a lot, especially a lot of entry level jobs. They are pretty like rotational programs based. So sometimes you are gonna rotating before like between different teams, and every team they have different focuses and also leadership style. So I think just researching on what they're doing, like who's on the team, who are you gonna directly working with, like you have an idea how their personality is like. So when you actually start doing your job, I think that would be pretty helpful for you to have a smooth start with your boss. So I would suggest that no matter what stage, when you're like job hunting or when you're actually like starting your career, I think keep networking internally in the firm is also going to lead you something unexpected. Even though I didn't have the chance to return to my summer internship firm, but I did talk to someone who has background in banking, and they set me up with someone they also know like having similar like background that I was looking forward to set up, looking forward to in France. So sometimes like unexpected networking calls or stuff gonna lead to something like surprisingly very beneficial for you. So I definitely suggest like keep in touch with them and keep networking. Sometimes like checking back to them to see what stage in life are they right now, like any career changes in their life. I think just keep in touch with them would be a great strategy in the long run.
So good, Harbor. Yes, and I can add a little bit from my experience here. Even after you get a job and you are in the organization, especially in corporate America, networking skills is number one thing to help you become visible in corporate America. So keep on building these skills. Don't stop networking, and always network outside your organization as well. As Harper say, or Revati talk about, know your industry, build your visible within that industry. It's not just about getting this job, but it's about long-term career success. Yeah, thank you for the question.
Yeah, and I think for the second part of the question too, if do these best practices change if it's this job search process is the same outside of the US, that is the home country. And I think a lot of what we mentioned today applies to even if you're applying to jobs in your home country, the networking aspect of it, knowing the timeline, planning ahead, quality over quantity, all of this still adds in even if you're applying to jobs back in home, because it's just helping you stand out, and that's something that's universal whatever type of job you're applying to. Well, thank you so much, Quan, Dylan, and Hopper. I think this was really great, and we had a great discussion. And I hope everyone that attended here found some value. And shout out to Caitlin for managing the chat and helping put this entire presentation together. If you have any remaining questions, please put them in the chat or email Caitlin Quallen for it. You will receive a follow-up email with all of the remaining questions answered, some additional UW resources, our contact information, as well as a recording of the entire presentation today. And there is a link, or I will present my screen one more time. 1 second. One last thing for you guys. Yep. So there is a QR code and or a link probably would pop up in the chat. And please take this post survey. Everyone who takes the post survey would be entered into a raffle, and 4 individuals who complete the survey would be chosen at random for an assessment and game plan strategy package with Coach Kwan, and also an opportunity to win a $100 gift card from Cole. So I would definitely encourage you to take the post survey. I know the Kwan's packages are very helpful. I had a conversation with Kwan and she is amazing. So thank you again, everyone who came here to participate and listen to all of us talk about navigating recruitment. So I would like to close with that, but if you have any questions remaining, please feel free to email Caitlin and we'll have those answers. Thank you again, Kwan, Caitlin, Dylan, and Harper.
Thank you, Kathleen. You are the backbone of this event. And thank you, everybody, for accepting my request to be the panel with me. And Dylan and Harper, thank you so much. Your advice is gold. Hopefully the student can take it and take action from today onward. It's an honor to collaborate with you all. And thank you everyone for attending.
Yep, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Best of luck with your employment.